Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video, and we are 5 days away from the pre-release for the next expansion. Midnight and Blizzard has dropped some bug fixes, which actually indirectly end up being pretty significant changes to the way that your class may operate, as well as some additional class tuning before the final week of release. And as always, if you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, educational and entertaining content, then make sure to smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. Now, obviously, with 5 days and it's about to release, there's still a hot button topic about which classes are actually the strongest, which ones are the worst. And I'm not going to lie, every single day that I've played this last week, my thoughts on which spec is like at the top or at the bottom has changed significantly. And I don't know if it's because of changes like this with these hotfixes that they've thrown in, or if people have discovered new things, or if things are just breaking and bugging and now suddenly we have different class tuning and the like. But I'm going to be producing a tier list likely tomorrow. I want one more day of reviewing my thoughts of the specialization so far, just to make sure nothing has changed again in my brain. But do note that it seems so volatile right now that I think class tuning is going to continue throughout the patch. So don't be too sad if your spec is completely at the bottom, and don't be too excited if your spec is at the top, because I do expect a lot of volatility. But for hotfixes here, they've added Glacial Advance to the cooldown manager. Obviously nothing too major for Death Knight there, but for Demon Hunter, Felscarred, they fixed an issue that caused Immolation Aura to consume a charge when Undying Embers effect was triggered. So you're going to be able to get more Immolation Auras without having it randomly taken away from you, which is nice. For Protection Paladin, Templar, they've resolved an issue causing Hammer of Wrath to extend the duration of Shake the Heavens more than intended. So Shake the Heavens is going to do a little bit less damage, just a minor amount of AoE damage. Rep Paladin, these changes are the ones that I've seen most rep mains talking about being very significant. So resolved an issue causing Divine Toll to consume Divine Purpose when talented into Divine Hammer, so you're not going to lose your free procs anymore. Resolved an issue causing Vengeful Wrath to just not function. So this is what I mean by, like, it feels like the game is literally changing every day. And like, what happened? It's like, well, maybe they did a hotfix, or maybe something bugged and broken. Now we got that. And then here, resolved an issue causing Divine Exaction to cast Judgment at only a 50% increased effectiveness instead of 150%. So you're going to get more judgment damage, more procs. They resolved an issue causing Second Sunrise Hammer of Wrath to also consume Divine Resonance. So a lot of proc gameplay alterations here. This is likely very significant for Rep Paladins. And you were riding pretty decently, so this might bump you up quite significantly. For Discipline Priest, they've fixed an issue that caused Shadow Mend to not benefit from Binding Heal Mastery, Protective Light when cast on an ally, Inner Focus, Divine Aegis, basically it didn't work with any ability you have, Unwavering Will, Surge of Light's mana reduction, Words of the Wise, improved Flash Heal, and Flash Heal's baseline modifier for Discipline Priest. They have, though, decreased its baseline heal by 25% now that it does interact with these. It's a little tough to say how significant the healing output is going to be from this, and Shadow Mend is like a new procced heal of your flash heal, so it doesn't happen too much, so I can't imagine it would be huge. Shadow Mend may also now stack up to twice. The tooltip will be updated to reflect this in a later patch, so you can actually get a little bit of overlaps if you're not able to get rid of it fast enough. So a little bit of a gameplay improvement there for Discipline. For Subtlety Rogue on Trickster, they fixed an issue that prevented damage from Eviscerate's Apex Shadow Clone from dealing Nimble Flurry damage to nearby targets when created by Coup de Grace. So it's a very minor amount of AoE damage from Trickster for Subtlety. For Affliction right now, in my opinion, is the one that needs the most amount of help, at least in PvP, but this is probably not going to be major for you guys. Soul Harvester, they fixed an issue where Wicked Reaping would be cast multiple times if Nightfall was consumed by Drain Soul, and more than one target is in combat with the Warlock, so that's going to be a little bit less damage if you're running the Drain Soul build. For Destruction, they fixed an issue where Backdraft would be consumed by Incinerate while affected by Chaotic Inferno, so you're going to get to keep some of your instant Incinerate procs. Destro is feeling really good since the most recent change. They've done some fixes as well to housing, making some items vendorable from PvP. But then the final class tuning adjustments over here, which are like going to be coming in on the next week's reset. For Unholy, the new Rune of Apocalypse Famine effect is now going to reduce the damage the target deals to the caster by only 1%, down from 5%. So a little bit less damage mitigation. You're going to be a bit squishier on Unholy DKs. For Mage, they actually make you tankier, so Arcane Warding is going to reduce magic damage by 4 to 8%, up from 2 to 4. Now, sadly for Arcane, or for Mage in general, at least in PvP, you're already very durable to magic damage. It's actually physical damage that is rough for you, right? Like mages or hunters getting on you. So this is weird because this is making you stronger against the thing that you were already strong against, at least in PvP. So I'm surprised they didn't put like a PvP modifier on this at all. Although mage is pretty squishy. This one also is pretty major. All mage barrier spells will absorb an additional 5% maximum health. How that's going to scale with overpowered barrier, I don't know. So this could be very significant towards just mage survivability overall, because their damage output right now with cooldowns, sky high, monsters. So if they're also able to stand even ground with a lot of these classes that can kind of plow them over at the moment with these changes, then mage could be completely running the show, which is why it's always a good idea to just keep on top of any of these potential changes, because even just a minor bug fix or one of these little minor tweaks that we're reviewing could completely flip how a specialization is going to perform. Windwalker is also going to be getting more durable. Calming Presence will now decrease damage taken by 6%, up from 3%. So a 3% damage reduction increase. And Windwalker, in my opinion, right now in PvP is probably the best melee DPS spec. It's absolutely mowing people down. Does so much damage with the new fist change. Feels really good. Feels really strong. But relative to everything else, it's a monster. And now also Martial Instincts will increase avoidance by 3 to 6, up from 2 to 4. So most of these survivability changes I think must be intended for Mythic Plus or Raid. But then they also consider it for PvP, because down here for Priest they've got not applied in PvP. So it was a consideration to whether this should go in PvP or not, and they do believe that Mage and Monk should be tankier at the moment. And I will say current pacing, at least for PvP, much faster. We started at the beginning of the beta, and it was like molasses. No one takes damage, tickle attacks, pool noodles. Everybody was freaking out, very concerned that, like, what is this? We don't want this. Now I feel like we've swung on the pendulum to the opposite side, where we're getting pretty close to Shadowlands, where it's like you pop a cooldown in Combustion or something like that, and just instantly KOing a target, which, I mean, I think it's more fun to die fast than it is to take 0 damage at all. But I thought that the goal of this expansion was to try and get it a bit in the middle, like not on the side where nothing's happening, but also not on the side where we're just instantly exploding. Somewhere in the middle where you spend a little bit more time. So because that hasn't been achieved, I kind of anticipate that there will be more changes, and likely their main concerns at the moment, considering they just did a launch test on the beta yesterday, seemingly kind of out of nowhere, is that they want to make sure the leveling, the initial dungeons, right, all of that stuff is as bug-free as possible, and smooth experience with the new currencies that they're implementing and all that stuff. That's going to be their highest priority. So I don't really see significant like PvP tuning until maybe right when the season starts, or maybe a week after the season starts. So if you might want to level up like a backup class, just in case, like pick one that you want, just because it's the most fun one that you want. And then if you also want to make sure you're playing the most broken one right now, you could do that. And then if it gets nerfed, it's like, well, at least you still have your most fun one to bring up, because the current pacing of the game, I think, is likely going to be shifted, because it's very fast compared to where it was before. And then for Priest, you guys are getting substantial buffs. Angelic Bulwark now absorbs damage equal to 25% of your maximum health, up from 15. So that talent's a lot more appealing, especially for like a Shadow Priest. For Healing Priest, you don't really get attacked a huge amount. Although maybe you do as a Void Weaver disc now, but that's going to be pretty substantial for Shadow. For Spell Warding, it's now going to reduce magical damage taken by 3 to 6%, up from 2 to 4, but you can see not applied in PvP. So they feel that mages need to take less magic damage, but not Priest. And Shadow Priest right now, much like Windwalker, I think is like the best ranged maybe right now at the moment. But I don't know if mage really needed to be more tanky against magic. I think against physical, yes, but against magic, I'm not so sure. Like, dots don't really do any damage to you. So, seems a bit strange to me. And then finally, Strength of Soul now increases stamina by 6%, up from 4%, but again, not in PvP. So, Priest's not going to be getting the full breadth of this. This seems like just a kind of a last little, like, surface level kind of trim, mostly for PvE. And we're going to have to wait and see where we go as far as PvP. To me, the biggest alert right now to having a good experience for PvP is the bugs got to get fixed. If jump disconnect when you're stunned is there, like, that's really bad. Like, that's got to get out of there. Right now, the frames, the enemy or target frames, they can randomly disappear and become non-interactive, so that you can't see HP updating, you can't see trinkets, you can't see DR information, nothing is relevant, and your targeting doesn't interact with it. So like you can't target, you can't see anything. It's like it's completely invisible. These two bugs are critical, just like major need to be corrected. And the other thing is healer balance, because to be honest, ranged and melee balance I think is actually getting really close for what the meta is, which is very fast-paced cooldown gameplay at the moment. The balance is actually getting pretty close for most DPS specs. There's probably a couple outliers that are too good and a couple outliers are too weak, but for healers the balance is egregiously out of scale. If there's a Mistweaver, you, as every other healer I've seen so often in the beta, will just leave the game. And if it goes like that, yeah, I'm very worried, because we need the healers to queue, and not everybody just wants to re-roll as a healer. They're like playing their specific role or their kit that they have, and they're not as easy to kind of just switch over compared to someone who's like a fire mage and just goes to a frost mage or something like that. So for me, the bugs and the healers, I really hope that at least we'll get like something on Monday or Tuesday or something like that before it goes live, to try and bring them in line, because it's also discipline praise. Damage output just went through the roof with the damage scaling they added to healers. Holy Paladin as well. The Hammer of Wrath can hit like 100,000. I'm seeing Disc Priest out damage significantly most other DPS specs. Mistweaver Monks out damaging and just keeping everybody top the whole game now with Ancient Teaching. So yeah, the kind of like do damage and heal effects on healers, they've scaled way out of control with the changes they made to damage. If those get reined in, for the most part, for what the current pacing is, I think it'll be fun. I hope that maybe throughout this they're going to slow it, the cooldown, bring down the weakness of the strength of the cooldowns, and then bring up the damage outside of it, because I thought that was the goal. Right now it's very much so the cooldowns are very strong, damage outside not so much. Some specs have damage the whole time, but it's such a small amount that it's not really felt to a large degree. But this is just the most recent update that we've got. My initial assessment here for this week so far. I'll have the official kind of tier list coming out here tomorrow. So thank you guys very much for tuning into the video. Hope you guys enjoyed the update, and I will see you in the next one.